Okay, in this little segment, I want to go over with you as far as how I put on polyurethane. I use Minwax oil-based gloss. I usually put on about 15, 18 coats, which is very time consuming and it takes a lot of patience. However, there's one way that I've learned to make it a little bit quicker as far as getting the polyurethane on in good fashion so it stays and looks good. And that will be on the lathe here. As I have this piece set up, all this is it's compression. I have this piece into my chuck, and this piece I have a lot of pieces. I have a whole drawer full of different size pieces over there that I use for this. On this one, on the top, I don't want to wedge down in here because I can crack the piece pretty easy. So I cut these pieces so I can put them around the rim and compress it down that way. Now it looks kind of precarious, I know, but I've never lost a piece. Not saying it would never happen, but I just haven't lost a piece up till now. I put it on there firm, and generally speaking, comes out pretty good the first time. So anyway, it's good enough to apply the polyurethane. Now, I have this on 85 RPM, which is a pretty good speed. Anywhere from like 85 up to 95 on this size piece is good. If you go too fast, of course, then you have the product being thrown off, so you don't want to do that. So anyway, we'll leave it here on 97 and go from there. Got to make sure that we're nice and snug. And now we'll come over here to the table and I'll show you how I mix the polyurethane up. Let's talk about the applicator that I use. I use T-shirts. And I cut them in about 4-inch squares. I get all the dust, dirt, lint, threads, everything else I can get off of them. And then I fold them in threes. A third here, and then back over, and then I fold it once, like this. For some reason, this seems to be about the best size applicator and the best density that I can get. Now, the T-shirts will vary in thickness because of whether they've been worn a lot or if they're brand new. But if you fold it like this, you're going to come out pretty good on it. Making these little pads up, these applicators, I have done it with the 4-inch by 4-inch and stayed with that because it seems to work the best. I've tried it bigger, I've tried it smaller, I've tried it thicker. And what happens is you get a bigger pad and the product will dry out before you can use it, and then you'll get streaks or bubbles in it, things like this. That's when you're doing multiple pieces. A lot of times will do anywhere from 12 to 20 pieces at once, so it's important for me to have the same consistency throughout, okay? Many different ways of doing it. I'm just telling you the way I was taught by a dear lady named Dee Trudeau. So anyway, I have my product that I have, and by the way, this product's been in here now for probably almost a year. I always put it in one of these little shallow containers, and the reason why I use a shallow container is when I'm dipping into this thing, on the tall ones, sometimes I'll hit the edge and tip over my product. So if I use the shallow one, then that doesn't happen, and I stay happy. So I just pour some product in here. Now on this one, this is an important part here. We'll come down here so we can see this. What I do is I shake it, and there's a rolling wave in there. What I want to do is I want to put this mineral spirits in there until I get a white cap, until a little drop comes off the top of that. Okay? There we go. When that little drop separates from the top of that little wave, then the product is the right consistency to use. That is all I know about it. Okay, I know it works. So then we have set up here our piece that we're going to do. Generally speaking, I have my air filtration system on, and unless I'm doing this camera work right now, like I'm doing right now, this is on when I'm in the shop at all times. There's just no exception unless the phone rings. But that air filtration system stays on. I also have a little fan that is set up over here that blows across here. It blows everything to the back and up. When I am going to set up to do the finishing work that I'm going to do, I have this on high. I have clean clothes on. If it's in the winter time, I have a fire in the stove, but I have stoked up my stove. Then I leave it alone. I do not open that door again, okay? Everything has to be just as clean as possible in here. Any dust looks like a 40-foot log that gets on this piece. So I want to be as dust-free as I can. It's very important. The gloves, that's just so I don't have to pick the polyurethane out of my fingernails. Other than that, it doesn't matter, I don't think. So I have this thing going at 96 RPM. I generally will have the air filtration system on and everything. I will then wipe down the piece. After I have it wiped down, I will bring my air compressor hose in, blow it off a little bit, and then I'm ready, set, go as far as putting on the finish. I'll test my polyurethane again. Still good. So, I also will make sure that all the dust and everything lint is off the t-shirt. And then I just start applying it. Now I can put on a liberal coat because I can also take it off pretty easy if I need to. So after I get enough product on there, I want to make sure that I have it distributed evenly over the whole piece. Now I will look at it. Just to make sure that I don't have a lot of lint in it, or any lint that I don't have runs going on, just to make sure that I like what I've just done. And if I like what I've just done, I will turn it on. I'll leave it for about 10 minutes or so, come back and look again, see if I missed anything, and then it can dry. Okay, so that's how that's done. Now, let's say, for instance, that I don't like what I did here. Let's say that there's dust in here, which it's pretty clean for not having this on, but let's just say that I'm not happy with it. I've spent very little time applying it, and I can spend a little bit more by taking it off. And I can turn right around right now and put another coat of polyurethane on there. But instead of doing that, what we'll do is I'll show you a different application that I still use. I used it for a lot of years, and I still use it when I have multiple pieces to do. I have one going, then I'll do this other application. Okay, that I do. Like I say, this is how I did it for years. I tried to spray on. I tried different applicators and everything, but this is really how my friend D. Trudeau showed me, and I've never had to vary from it since then. So I have many of these little guys. I have a couple shelves full of them that I've made just when I've needed them, for all different sizes and types and everything. Anything that I need to do this with, I'll stop and make it to make sure I can do the very best job. Okay. So again, I will check my product. Still looks good. And I have my mineral spirits here. I use a lot of mineral spirits. I like this mineral spirits because it cuts wet polyurethane, as you could see on my over there on the lathe. But also, when the polyurethane is dry, this won't touch it. It also is very nice to me on my hands and things. So that's why I use the why I use the mineral spirits for my work around here. So we have the little cloth still folded up, and so this time we will start here, and what will happen is I'll get this going, and I'll turn it, do another one, and then I'll come back and I'll catch this side. Now the reason why I go back and forth on these pieces is because if the edge dries, you can't get it out, you have to sand it out. So you want to keep a wet edge at all times, and then your application will come out like you want it to. Okay? So here we go. Now, also keep an eye on the way I turn my hand to keep the same angle all the way through as much as I can. It's very important, because if you do not do that, you're going to leave bubbles behind. And you're always going to leave the bubbles behind, but you want to leave minimum bubbles behind, and I will show you in just a little bit how you get rid of them. So I like to go over each area twice to make sure that I have full coverage. on, there we go, on when it gets shiny, when the piece gets shiny, it's harder to pick out where you've done and where you haven't done. So we will go back now and get these bubbles out of here. Okay, we're all the way around now. We just have this one little space in here. So as you can tell, putting a finish on when the piece is on the lathe is a lot quicker and a lot easier than how I'm doing it here. Okay, so we have bubbles down here. Unavoidable. You're going to have bubbles every time. So what I do is I just herd them over into one place. Very carefully, making sure I have them all together. Now I have just a few right down here. Now I have none. So the only other thing that I have to finish here is the bottom. And you don't want to go over the bottom because you can see it. A little bit doesn't hurt, but you don't want to do any more than you have to. Again, I have a few bubbles on here. It's done. So then I put it up on the shelf and let it dry, and it'll be ready to put